Sharon Stone has always been a figure of fascination in Hollywood. For decades, she's been in the public eye. But despite her fame, she has kept so much of her life shrouded in mystery. Fans and the media have been both captivated and confused by her silence, especially regarding certain rumors that have followed her through the years. These weren't just typical Hollywood rumors, they were the kind that lingered and grew with time, becoming almost like an unsolved puzzle. Everyone wanted to know more, to understand the truth behind the stories they'd heard, but Sharon Stone never really said much. She was always composed, always careful about how much she revealed to the world, choosing to keep certain aspects of her life behind closed doors. Why had she chosen silence for so long? Why did she let these rumors go on for years without addressing them? There was always a sense of curiosity around her, with fans hoping for a glimpse into her real life, her true feelings, and the events that had shaped her. And yet Sharon Stone was not the type to feed into that kind of narrative. She was known for her strength, for her resilience, and for the way she navigated the difficult waters of fame. But despite her public persona, something about her silence made people more curious. Was there more to her story than what she let on? What was really going on behind the scenes? For years, rumors about her personal life, her career, and her relationships were whispered in the shadows. Some were about her early career, others about her personal struggles, and some even speculated about her relationships with the men in her life. Yet Sharon Stone remained distant, never truly engaging with the public's insatiable need for answers. It was as if she had deliberately chosen to keep her true self hidden from the world, and in doing so, she turned into an enigma, an icon whose story was only half told. People wanted to know what she was thinking, what had happened to her, and why she had remained so private for so long. Yet despite the constant media pressure and public curiosity, Sharon Stone never cracked. Her silence only deepened the intrigue around her. It was as if she held the key to a door that no one could quite open, leaving her fans to speculate and imagine what lay beyond. Was she protecting herself from something, or had she simply made peace with the fact that her life, as a public figure, would always be subject to scrutiny? Then, at 67, something changed. Sharon Stone, after all these years of keeping quiet, finally decided it was time to speak out. It wasn't just a casual interview or a public statement about the latest rumors. This was her breaking her silence about everything that had been circulating for so long. The public was stunned. Finally, after years of wondering and speculating, the woman who had captivated Hollywood's attention for decades was ready to set the record straight. But why now? What had prompted her to finally share the truth? What did she have to say that was so important, so urgent, that she could no longer stay silent? The questions were endless, and as people waited for her to speak, the suspense built. Was the truth something everyone had expected, or was there a revelation that would surprise even her most devoted fans? The curiosity surrounding Sharon Stone's decision to finally break her silence was palpable, and the world was waiting for her to answer the questions they'd been asking for years. There was no doubt that this moment would redefine her relationship with her fans, with the public, and perhaps even with herself. After all, speaking out meant confronting her past, and Sharon Stone had always been someone who, despite her public persona, remained deeply private about the things that mattered most to her. What would she reveal? Would it change how people saw her, or would it just add another layer to the mystery that had surrounded her for so long? The moment had arrived, and the world was finally going to hear Sharon Stone's truth. For years, rumors about Sharon Stone's personal life had circulated in the tabloids and Hollywood gossip circles, but the details were always hazy. Speculation about her relationships, her struggles, and the real woman behind the iconic roles kept people guessing. Yet Sharon, ever the mysterious figure, had remained tight-lipped about these matters, offering only glimpses of herself to the public. Some fans, of course, admired her for her ability to maintain such an air of privacy in an industry that demands constant attention, but others couldn't help but feel frustrated by the lack of clarity. Was there something more she wasn't saying? Over the years, people began to make assumptions, and the rumors seemed to grow more intense with time. Yet Sharon's silence was deafening. She was known for her performances in films like Basic Instinct and Casino, but her personal life seemed far more elusive. Some speculated that there had been heartbreak or pain in her past that she didn't want to relive. Others thought that she was just a woman who preferred to keep certain things for herself, refusing to let the world into every corner of her life. The curiosity surrounding her only deepened, and even as she continued to work and make public appearances, the question remained: what was Sharon Stone really like when the cameras weren't rolling? What did she think about all the rumors, and why did she choose not to address them? Her refusal to confirm or deny these speculations made her even more enigmatic to the public. Fans and journalists alike wanted to know what was the truth behind Sharon Stone's silence, but then at 67, Sharon Stone did something no one expected. After all these years of evading the rumors and refusing to answer the questions that had followed her for decades, she finally decided to speak out. What could have possibly changed? What made her finally break her silence, and what truth was she ready to share with the world? For those who had been following her career and her life, the anticipation was almost unbearable. People wondered if she was going to open up about her marriages, her personal struggles, or the challenges she faced while navigating a career in an industry that often left women feeling overlooked and undervalued. The possibilities were endless, and the curiosity surrounding her decision to speak out was at an all-time high. Why did she choose now, at 67, to finally address the rumors? Was it because she had reached a point in her life where she no longer cared about the public's perception? Or was it because there was something she had been holding inside that she felt needed to be shared before it was too late? For many, it felt like the answers they had been waiting for were finally within reach, but the suspense only continued to build as they wondered what exactly Sharon Stone would say. Would she confirm the rumors that had followed her for years, or would she shock the world with a completely new revelation? It was a moment that promised to reshape how people saw the actress, and perhaps even how she saw herself. As Sharon Stone spoke, the world listened. Every word she shared felt significant. Every revelation added another piece to the puzzle of her life that had been missing for so long. Her decision to address the rumors wasn't just a response to years of gossip, it was a declaration. In her own words, she was finally taking control of her narrative. Sharon Stone, the woman who had always been in control on screen, was now ready to share her truth off screen, in a way she had never done before. Fans who had admired her for years were left in awe, while those who had doubted her were forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew about her. The truth was more complex than they had imagined, and it wasn't just about the rumors, it was about the journey she had taken to get to this point in her life. For Sharon, it wasn't about answering every question or proving something to the world, it was about reclaiming her story, and doing so on her terms. Her bravery in speaking out allowed her to not only confront the rumors head-on, but also to reveal a side of herself that had remained hidden for so long. It was a moment of vulnerability and strength, and as she shared more of her truth, the suspense surrounding her only grew. What other revelations did she have? How much more was there to learn about the life of this iconic woman who had finally decided to speak? The mystery was far from over, but for the first time in years, fans and the public had a sense of clarity. Sharon Stone had broken her silence, and the world was finally hearing the truth. After years of avoiding questions and staying tight-lipped about her personal life, Sharon Stone's decision to speak out at 67 was nothing short of a shock. Fans and the media had been waiting for a moment like this for years, hoping for some insight into the woman who had captured Hollywood's attention but kept so much of her world hidden. The public had grown used to her being an enigma, never fully opening up about her relationships, struggles, or the rumors that surrounded her. People speculated about everything: her marriages, her health, and her personal experiences in Hollywood. There was always this sense of curiosity, an undercurrent of intrigue surrounding Sharon Stone, and yet she had remained mostly silent about the things that mattered most. When she broke her silence, it wasn't just an ordinary interview, it was as though she was revealing something deeply personal, something that had been buried for a long time. The decision to speak wasn't just about clearing up rumors, it was a pivotal moment in her life, and people couldn't help but wonder why now. What had changed? What was she finally ready to share after all these years? As Sharon Stone began to speak, it became clear that this wasn't just a casual conversation, it was a moment of self-reflection, where she allowed herself to open up in a way she never had before. For years people had speculated about her, wondering if there was more to her than the glamorous movie star they saw on screen. Many had imagined that her life was just as dramatic and eventful as the roles she played in films like Basic Instinct and Casino. But what was the real Sharon Stone like? Had her life been as perfect as it seemed, or was there more to the story? Fans and critics alike were on the edge of their seats, eager to learn the truth. The suspense around her revelation only grew as she began to touch on the things that had been hidden from the public for so long. She spoke candidly about the challenges she had faced in her career, the moments of heartbreak, and the pressures of being in the spotlight. For the first time, Sharon Stone wasn't just the woman in front of the camera, she was the woman behind the stories, sharing her raw emotions and experiences in a way she had never done before. Her decision to address the rumors wasn't just a response to the gossip, it was an act of reclaiming her own narrative. Sharon Stone was no longer content with being the subject of speculation, she wanted to take control of her story, and tell it on her own terms. As she spoke, it became clear that this wasn't about answering every question, or explaining every part of her life, it was about telling the truth, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable it might be. She was opening up about her past, about her fears, her heartbreaks, and the parts of her life that she had kept hidden for years. The suspense of what would come next kept everyone guessing. What other truths would she reveal? Would she address some of the most pressing questions fans had about her personal life, or would there be more revelations that no one could have predicted? The curiosity around Sharon Stone's decision to speak out only deepened with every word she shared. What was behind the woman who had so carefully curated her public image? Was the real Sharon Stone someone completely different from the persona that had been built over the years? As the interview continued, it became clear that Sharon Stone was not just revealing the facts of her life, she was also confronting her own past. There was a sense of vulnerability in her words, an honesty that people had never heard from her before. The suspense of her decision to speak out, of sharing the truth that had been hidden for so long, kept people captivated. What was she hoping to achieve by finally opening up? Was it a way to heal from the years of speculation, or was it about giving her fans a glimpse into her real self? Sharon Stone was no longer the mysterious, untouchable star. She was a woman who had lived through difficult moments, who had faced challenges just like anyone else, and who was now ready to tell her own story. As she shared her experiences, the curiosity around her life continued to grow. What else had she kept hidden? What other pieces of the puzzle would she reveal in time? Her decision to speak out didn't just answer some of the questions people had about her, it raised even more. It left fans wondering if there was more to the story than what she had already shared. Sharon Stone's silence had been broken, but the story was far from over. As people processed what she had said, they couldn't help but wonder, what would she do next? Would she continue to open up about her life, or would she retreat back into the shadows, leaving the public to wonder once more? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain, Sharon Stone had captured the world's attention once again, and the curiosity surrounding her was far from over. For so long, Sharon Stone had been a mystery to the public. The world saw her as an icon, a woman who had graced the big screen with unforgettable performances in movies like Basic Instinct and Casino, but the woman behind the roles had always remained largely hidden. Fans and critics alike had built a narrative around her, a narrative fueled by rumors, speculations, and the carefully crafted persona she presented to the world. There had always been an air of curiosity surrounding her life, particularly when it came to her relationships, her personal struggles, and the hardships she may have faced in Hollywood. The tabloids were full of gossip, and the public, ever so fascinated with celebrities, couldn't stop wondering about the woman behind the glitzy exterior. Yet, Sharon Stone rarely gave them anything concrete to hold on to. She wasn't the type to reveal much about herself. Her silence only added to the suspense and intrigue. What was she hiding? Why had she always kept such a tight grip on her personal life? It felt as though there were stories waiting to be told, but Sharon had always remained one step ahead, refusing to give the public any more than what was necessary. Then, at 67, something shifted. Sharon Stone, the woman who had long been a mystery, decided to break her silence. The moment she spoke out, it felt like a tidal wave of emotion and revelation was about to crash over the world. The question on everyone's mind was simple: why now? Why, after all these years of holding back, had Sharon decided to open up? The curiosity surrounding her decision was palpable. Fans, journalists, and even her critics were on edge, waiting to hear what she had to say. Had something happened that made her change her mind? Was she simply tired of the rumors? Or, as many speculated, was she finally ready to share her side of the story, to shed light on the things she had kept private for so long? Whatever her reason, the fact that Sharon Stone was finally addressing the years of speculation and gossip added a level of suspense that no one had expected. The timing felt crucial. Was it a sign that she was reaching a new chapter in her life? Or was it a final attempt to reclaim control over her own narrative, one that had been shaped by others for far too long? The questions were endless, and the answers were just out of reach. As Sharon Stone began to speak, every word she said seemed carefully chosen. It was clear that this wasn't an off-the-cuff statement. She was ready for the first time to truly let people see beyond the starlet and the public figure. She started to share pieces of her life that had remained hidden for decades, pieces that had been obscured by the public's fascination with her career and the roles she played. Fans began to realize that there was so much more to her than the glamorous image that had been carefully constructed over the years. Sharon spoke openly about her struggles in the film industry, the moments when she felt overlooked, and how difficult it had been for her as a woman in a predominantly male-dominated world. The struggles that many didn't even know existed were laid bare for all to see, but as Sharon revealed more, the suspense only intensified. What else could she possibly have to say? Had she touched on all the important aspects of her life, or was there more to come? What secrets had she kept hidden, and how many more truths were yet to be revealed? The curiosity surrounding her didn't just fade, it only grew. The more Sharon spoke, the more fans and the public wanted to know, how far would she go? Would she discuss the rumors about her relationships, her personal heartbreaks, and the challenges of being a public figure? It was a moment where her honesty was undeniable, but the tension remained. The suspense hung in the air as everyone waited for the next revelation. Sharon Stone's decision to speak out wasn't just about addressing the rumors, it was about reclaiming her life and her voice. For years she had allowed others to control the narrative around her, to speculate and guess at her personal life. But now, she was the one in control. This wasn't a forced confession, it was a choice she had made, a choice to be heard in a way that was completely on her own terms. With every word she shared, she dismantled the carefully constructed walls of mystery around her life, revealing more than many had ever expected. But even as she revealed more, she left room for the public to wonder, was this all of it? Or was there more she wasn't saying? Sharon's words carried weight, but they also carried a sense of mystery. She wasn't spilling every detail of her life all at once, rather she was giving people a glimpse into the woman behind the star. The suspense continued to build as fans wondered what she would say next, and whether she would ever fully let them into her world. This wasn't just a confession, it was a delicate dance between truth and mystery, vulnerability and strength. For Sharon Stone, breaking her silence was more than just a chance to clear the air. It was an opportunity to set the record straight, to control her own narrative, and to show the world that there was so much more to her than the public had ever known. Her decision to speak at 67 wasn't about confirming or denying rumors, it was about showing the world her true self. And even as she revealed parts of her life, the suspense didn't disappear. The public was left with more questions than answers, and the curiosity surrounding Sharon Stone only deepened. What other parts of her story remained hidden? What else did she have to say? Sharon had taken the first step, but the road ahead was still full of uncertainty and mystery, and for the first time in years, that was exactly how she wanted it. Sharon Stone's decision to break her silence at 67 was one that immediately captivated the world. For years, she had kept her personal life under wraps, shielding her true self from the public eye. While she had been adored for her performances in iconic films like Basic Instinct and Casino, the real Sharon Stone remained a mystery, hidden behind the glossy image that Hollywood had built for her. There were always rumors swirling around her personal life, whispers about her marriages, her relationships, and the struggles she faced in an industry that often seemed unforgiving to women. But even as those rumors persisted, Sharon Stone refused to address them. The curiosity surrounding her was palpable, and every time a new rumor surfaced, it seemed to add fuel to the fire. Why hadn't she responded? What was she hiding? Or was it that there was nothing to hide at all, and she simply chose to remain private? For years, fans and the media were left with more questions than answers, and with each passing year the mystery of Sharon Stone only deepened. But now, in her late 60s, she had decided it was time to speak up, to tell her side of the story. The question that lingered was, what would she reveal, and why had she chosen this moment to do so? There was a sense of anticipation in the air, as everyone waited for Sharon Stone to finally speak her truth. What did she have to say, and how would the world respond? The moment Sharon Stone began to speak, it was clear that this wasn't a simple explanation or a casual chat. She wasn't just addressing rumors, she was unveiling pieces of her life that had remained hidden for decades. In a way, Sharon Stone was finally allowing the world to see the woman behind the glamorous public persona. There was a certain vulnerability in her words, a rawness that had never been shared before. She spoke candidly about the struggles she faced in Hollywood, the times when she was overlooked and underestimated. For many years, Sharon had been seen as the glamorous star, the sex symbol who played roles that were often larger than life. But the reality, she revealed, was far more complicated. She opened up about the toll the industry took on her mental health, the challenges of being a woman in a field dominated by men, and the sacrifices she had made in order to succeed. But even as she spoke with such honesty, the suspense remained. How much would she reveal? What parts of her life would she keep for herself, and what would she allow the public to see? It was clear that Sharon Stone wasn't holding back, but the deeper question lingered: was there more to her story than even she was willing to share? The curiosity surrounding her life only grew as the interview progressed, with each revelation leading to more questions. Would she speak about her personal relationships? Would she address the rumors about her marriages, or would she leave those to the imagination? There was no doubt that Sharon Stone had made a conscious decision to share parts of her life, but the way she did so left the audience wondering if there were still pieces of the puzzle left to uncover. As Sharon Stone delved deeper into her personal history, it became clear that this wasn't just about answering rumors, it was about her reclaiming control of the narrative. She wasn't waiting for others to tell her story. She was telling it herself. For years, people had speculated about her, making assumptions based on the image she projected. But now, she was giving them a glimpse into her real self. Her decision to speak out was more than just a response to the gossip. It was an act of empowerment, a way for her to finally define her own story. Yet despite the power in her words, there was still a lingering sense of mystery. Sharon Stone wasn't divulging every detail of her life. She was sharing the parts that mattered most to her, the moments that had shaped who she was, but there were still gaps in the narrative. It was as if she was giving the public just enough to understand her, without revealing everything. The suspense built as she spoke, with people eagerly hanging on to every word, wondering what she would say next. Was there more to her story than what she had shared? Would she address the rumors about her most personal moments, her marriages, her heartbreaks, her health struggles? Sharon Stone had already revealed so much, but the question remained: what was still left unsaid? The curiosity around her life continued to grow, and every time she revealed a new part of her story, it only fueled the mystery even more. The tension was palpable, as fans and journalists alike waited for the next revelation, the next piece of the puzzle. Sharon's decision to open up about her life was a bold one. It wasn't just about addressing the rumors or setting the record straight, it was about breaking free from the confines of the image that had been constructed for her. For years, Sharon Stone had been seen as a Hollywood figure, a symbol of glamour and sensuality, but in her interview she revealed a far more complex and layered person. She wasn't just the woman who had starred in blockbuster films, she was a woman who had experienced profound loss, who had faced moments of doubt, and who had struggled with the very things that many people could relate to. Sharon's vulnerability in sharing her personal story was striking, but it also left a lingering sense of suspense. What was she really hoping to achieve by speaking out? Was it about healing, about taking control of her narrative, Or was it something deeper? Was it about showing the world that there was more to her than the public image that had been created? The questions were endless, and every answer only seemed to create more curiosity. As Sharon Stone spoke, the world listened, captivated by her honesty, yet still wondering what else was left to discover. Her willingness to open up and share the things she had kept hidden for so long was a sign of strength, but it also added to the suspense. There was a sense that Sharon Stone had been holding back even more than she had already revealed. She had given the world a glimpse into her life, but there was an undeniable sense that her story wasn't over. As she continued to speak, it was impossible not to wonder what would she do next. Would she continue to share her truth, or would she retreat back into the privacy she had carefully cultivated for so many years? Sharon Stone's decision to speak at 67 was a powerful one, but the suspense surrounding her words and actions didn't fade, it only deepened. What had she truly revealed, and what would she keep to herself? The world waited, eager for the next chapter in Sharon Stone's story. At 67, Sharon Stone decided to finally break her silence on the rumors that had been following her for years, and the public's reaction was nothing short of shocking. For decades, Stone, a Hollywood icon, had been at the center of speculation, with the media frequently discussing her personal life, her relationships, and the challenges she faced in the entertainment industry. But despite the constant scrutiny, she had chosen to remain silent, letting the rumors swirl without offering any explanation. Fans and the public were left in the dark, and with every passing year, the questions grew more intense. What was Sharon Stone's life really like behind the public persona? Was there a hidden side to her that the world hadn't seen? The curiosity surrounding her was undeniable, and as she entered her late 60s, many were wondering if she would ever open up. When Sharon finally decided to address the rumors, it wasn't just about setting the record straight, it was about revealing the parts of herself that had long been concealed. People were eager to hear what she had to say, but there was a sense of suspense as they wondered whether she would choose to open up fully, or leave some things unsaid. Stone was known for being fiercely private, so her decision to speak out felt like a bold move. She shared the moments that shaped her, the struggles she faced in an industry that often treated women harshly, and the personal battles she had fought over the years. But even as she shared, there was an undeniable curiosity about what she wasn't saying. Sharon Stone spoke candidly about the mental health struggles she faced, the difficult decisions she made in her career, and the personal losses that had left deep scars. For many, this was the first time they were hearing such raw and vulnerable details from a woman who had long been viewed as untouchable, a Hollywood legend who seemed to have it all. Yet as Stone shared her story, there was a sense that not everything was revealed. What was still hidden? What parts of her life would she keep to herself, and why? As Sharon Stone opened up, the world began to see a side of her that was both familiar and unfamiliar. The woman who had once been celebrated for her roles in glamorous movies was now sharing the personal stories that had shaped her into the person she had become. But even as she spoke, there was a lingering sense of mystery. The public had known her for decades as a glamorous star, but Sharon's real life was far more complicated. There were moments of pain, heartache, and personal sacrifice that hadn't been part of the narrative Hollywood had created for her. The suspense continued to build with each new revelation, as people wondered if there were still more pieces to uncover. Would she speak about her family, her relationships, and her life outside the spotlight? Was there more to her story that had yet to be told? The curiosity surrounding Sharon Stone only grew as she spoke more about her life, but with each answer came more questions. Stone's decision to speak out at 67 was also seen as an act of empowerment. For years the media had tried to define her, to create a story about her life that didn't necessarily reflect who she truly was. By finally speaking for herself, Stone was taking control of her own narrative. She wasn't letting others tell her story anymore. She was setting the record straight, but also reminding the world that there was more to her than what they had seen on the big screen. Her revelations were both personal and public, offering fans a glimpse into her life beyond the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. But with all the revelations came more questions. As Stone spoke about her past, it became clear that there was still so much that hadn't been revealed. There were still parts of her story that she was keeping to herself, and people were eager to know what those parts were. What had she left out? Why had she decided to reveal these aspects of her life now, at 67? The suspense continued, as fans, journalists, and the public wondered if more would be revealed in the future. Throughout her life, Sharon Stone had often been seen as a symbol of strength, beauty, and resilience. But as she spoke openly about the challenges she faced, it became clear that her strength came from a place of deep personal struggle. She had been through difficult times, but she had always managed to emerge stronger. Yet, as she shared her truth, the curiosity only deepened. Was there more to Sharon Stone's story that had yet to be uncovered? What was she holding back and why? As she spoke, it was clear that Sharon was in control of the narrative now, but the questions surrounding her life and her story were far from over. The suspense remained as people wondered whether there would be more chapters to Sharon Stone's life story, chapters that had yet to be revealed. Would she continue to share her truth, or would she retreat back into her private world once again? The world was watching, waiting for the next revelation, the next step in her journey. And as Sharon Stone at 67 continued to speak out, the world listened, captivated by the mystery of her life, the complexities of her experiences, and the undeniable strength she had shown in finally telling her story.